Heart at the Hazbin Hotel, Chapter 18. Now the real tragedy can begin. Be ready. There's lots of anguish in this chapter, but there also may be a return. Let's find out. Chapter 18. No More. Heart's point of view. 3 months had passed since Russ and Angel's date together. They officially started to call themselves a couple. It was thanks to me they got together. It was so sweet. They were happy. I was happy for them. Russ was romantic towards Angel, always spoiling him, and the spider demon was a little protective of Russ. It was a little funny, seeing a spider protect a snake. It was cute to see them together, though. It was also funny how the two acted together. They were fun to be around when I was in a better feeling mood. Russ would go to the hotel and visit Angel. Some nights, Angel went home with Russ back to his apartment. I would be invited to go with them on their little lunch dates. So Angel would always tell me what was going on with him and Russ. Angel told me the stuff that went on in bed, but I didn't really want to hear about it. But it was Angel, so I put up with it and would listen. Some days, Russ invited me over for a game night that they started to try and host once a week. Of course, since the two were known for drugs, mainly that white stuff, it would become involved sometime into the night. I never partaked, but I let the two indulge in what they liked. I would just sit and drink a few. Eventually, it would get too awkward for me to stay, so I would just up and leave. Russ would text me the next morning to apologize, but I always told him it was okay and that I didn't mind. I wanted him to have fun and enjoy themselves. I was just glad to see them happy. They both were. Angel mainly, especially all that stuff that happened between him and Valentino all those times ago. Charlie still came to visit me. She would even invite me to go have coffee with her, but eventually I just stopped going. I made up excuses not to go. It wasn't in my heart anymore. I started to block people out. I even started to hurt myself. But I didn't keep that up for long. I found it meaningless to do so after a while. I stopped going to my dance lessons for the past month. There was no point anymore. Before, I used to go every day on my days off. Then I started to go once a week. Then I stopped going altogether. I found no point in going anymore. I found no company and no one. I started to put up a wall around myself. Russ, since he was still my dance teacher, always wondered what was happening. He always asked me why I wasn't coming. I just made up some stupid excuse. I always told him that I was just taking a break, and he believed me. I loved my job. It was my life. Everyone loved me. Everyone was fun to work with. But just last week, I quit. I put in a week's notice, and then left. Glenn told me he would always welcome me back with open arms if need be. He liked me, and liked how I sang. It was sad to see me go. I found his gesture nice, at least. I didn't tell him, however, that he probably wouldn't need to worry, because I probably won't be coming back. Tomorrow was the day I've been looking forward to for a whole year. Before, I used to dread it. Now, I couldn't wait for it to come. Extermination Day. He said he would come back before that day. He hasn't. He didn't show. I didn't hear a word. I saw nothing. No one heard a thing. He had vanished. It's like he never existed. I never even noticed a shadow watching over me. Alistair was gone. He didn't care for me anymore. He never loved me. Maybe he was all in my mind. Imagination. I was just lonely. Perhaps my whole life here in hell was just a part of me being in an insane asylum my entire life. Perhaps not, but it sure felt like it. I felt like I was almost going insane. Alistair, the love of my eternal hell life, my buck, my protector, had gone away. Forever. There was no point to my life. My life was him, and now it's gone. There's no point. Why should I go on? I wanted to leave Helm my entire time I was down here. He gave me a reason to stay. Now, I can finally go. Because he wasn't here anymore to keep me grounded. Although I wanted to go to heaven before, but now, I just wanted nothing. Black, abyss, that would be my eternal suffering. To die at the hand of an angel, that's all I wanted now. I was a shell of no emotions. My spark had faded. My light had gone. My life was meaningless. I sat in my room, locked away. I had finally put up my wall. I turned off my phone. All it did was sit on my bedside table now. Off. My Alistair doll held close to my chest as I sat on my bed. My ears were always down. I never seemed to put them up anymore. My tail just kind of drooped behind me with no life. I cried. But I had cried so much that my tears were now dry. I had no more tears to shed. Lizzie was trying to get the house ready for extermination day, but I had no heart to help into it. I didn't want to be safe. I wanted to be exposed. She yelled at me a few times behind my locked door. Banging. That's all I heard. Banging on my door. Everything else was blocked out. I had everyone blocked out from my mind. All I had was nothing. Third person point of view. Heart, come on, please come out. The house isn't going to be ready in time if you don't help me, Lizzie said angrily, but again she had no response. It was no use. Lizzie again sighed in defeat. She gave up. Heart never came out. She locked herself away. Lizzie couldn't help her sister. She had buried herself. She built a wall. She didn't even really speak anymore. Lizzie missed her sister, and she still blamed Alistair for making her this way. Lizzie growled at the thought of him. She walked away from Hart's door and sat at the couch with a thud. She sighed again. She didn't know what to do. Then an idea came to mind. She pulled out her phone and called Charlie. After 3 rings, she picked up. Hello? Charlie, it's Lizzie. I need your help, Lizzie told her. Of course. What do you need? Charlie asked. Lizzie sighed. Hart won't come out of her room. She locked herself in. She's been in there all day. I have a few hours left and I need to get the house ready for the extermination tomorrow. But I'm doing it all myself. I can't get her to help me. There's no way I'll have it done in time. Charlie took a pause at the other end. Her walls are up, huh? Oh yeah, they're pretty thick too, Lizzie said. Charlie then sighed. Tell you what, why don't you two come to the hotel? It's safe here. That way you don't have to secure your house. We already have it all secured here, Charlie suggested. I don't know, Charlie. You think she'll be okay there? If she's zoned out as I think she is, she won't be a problem. Lizzie took a pause to think. Okay, we'll come. I'll be over as soon as I can. I have to get Hart out somehow, though. I'll come over. I'll pick you guys up and I can help you get Hart out of her room. Thanks, Charlie. I don't know what I would do without you to help me with her right now. Don't worry. I'll be over as soon as possible. All right. Bye. The two hung up and Lizzie went back to her Hart's room. She had to get her out somehow. It was about 30 minutes later and Lizzie heard a knock on her door. She had no luck getting Hart out of her room. Lizzie went to the front door and opened it. Charlie stood there. Thanks for coming, Charlie, Lizzie greeted, gesturing her inside. Charlie walked in. It was my pleasure. I'm glad to help you guys out. Charlie looked around. She hasn't come out, has she? Lizzie shook her head. Nothing. I even told her you were coming and she didn't make a sound. Charlie sighed. Looks like I have to take drastic measures if I need to. Drastic? How drastic? Lizzie asked, worried. I just have to use my magic to open her door, Charlie answered. Lizzie was relieved. Oh, well, that's good. I didn't want to break down the door. I don't want to have to deal with replacing it. again. Charlie walked up to Hart's door. She knocked first, just to try. Hart, it's Charlie. Can you come out to see me? Charlie got no answer. She turned to Lizzie. Did you mention the hotel to her? Lizzie shook her head. I didn't want to try just in case she freaked out. I'm going to try, see if it triggers anything. I apologize if she does anything, but it's worth a shot. Charlie turned back to the wolf dragon girl's door. Hart, we're going back to the hotel. You want to come back with us? Charlie waited a moment. She heard a shuffle behind the door. Hotel? Hart asked as they finally got a word out of her. Lizzie and Charlie looked at each other with a smile. Charlie turned back to Hart's door. Yes, the hotel. You want to come visit for a little while? Charlie wondered. Again, they heard shuffling, then footsteps come to the door. Soon, the door opened. Hart's point of view. I slowly made my way to the door. My Alistair doll was still close to me. Charlie was here. She wanted to take me to the hotel. Why? What if Alistair was back? What if she knew and she was surprising me? I had to find out. Plus, I knew with the extermination coming, it would be the safe place for me to be if Alistair was there. I couldn't ask that, though. I had to wait. I wanted to find out on my own. I got to my door and opened it. On the other side was Charlie and Lizzie as they looked at me with concerned smiles. I'd like to come to the hotel, I said as I looked at them a moment, my ears slightly going up. Wonderful! Let's get going then, okay? Charlie held out her hand to me. Putting my Alistair doll in one arm, I took her hand with my other hand. Let's go. Both smiled, and I followed them out into the living room. I put on my shoes, and then we headed out and into the back of Charlie's car. All I did was look out the window, my ears back to being flat against my head. The streets still full of demons. Some were getting ready for the extermination. Some just didn't seem to care. Before I knew it, we were at the hotel. I slowly stepped out of the car and looked up at the building. I hadn't been here since I destroyed Alistair's room. I walked by it now and then, but never stopped because I didn't know how I would react. I was fine, though. I had my idea going through my head. Alistair was here, or at least he would be showing up. I had a feeling he would. I felt good. My ears went up a little at the thought. We headed inside. Some of the residents were getting ready for the day-long extermination, stocking up on stuff and making sure things were boarded up that needed to be. Husk was behind the bar organizing the booze. I saw Nifty running around everywhere to make sure stuff still stayed clean as people worked. Vaggie walked around with a clipboard as she talked to each demon. Angel walked out of the kitchen with a box of food, most likely food to keep in his room. To my surprise, Russ was behind him with a box as well. Why was Russ here? To stay with Angel during the extermination? It made sense to me. Angel probably wanted him close by to him during the day, especially at the hotel. It was probably the safest place to be. I turned to Charlie. Thanks for having us here. I let my tail wag. It's the first time I've done that in a long while. Of course, Charlie pointed to the steps. I had Nifty clean your room for you if you wish to stay there. I nodded. Thank you. I promise to behave and not lose my temper this time. And I'll make sure of that, Lizzie growled behind me. I looked back at Lizzie. Well, let's go make sure to get the room set up. Then we can come back down and get what we need. I turned and walked towards the steps. I walked down the hallway. I slowed when I got to Alistair's door. It was open. I saw that the room was fixed. The burned walls were repainted. A new mirror had been put in as well, and a new bedside table. The window had been replaced too. All his stuff was still there, though. His bed still made. I shook my head and quietly walked away. I couldn't get distracted. Not now. I got to my room, and it was still how I left it. I had a smile come across my face. I heard Lizzie walk in behind me. I turned around and looked at her. Let's get to work, then, I said sternly. The time I was in the hotel, I was fine. I had no sparks of anger. I had no moments of sadness. I was okay. My ears were perked up and my tail wagged behind me. Although, each passing hour that went by, it was closer to extermination. I saw no signs of Alistair. Maybe he would show up last minute? I helped Lizzie get the room ready. We boarded up the window, got some extra blankets, as we were going to be bunked out in the bathroom instead of the regular bedroom just to be safe. We got candles as well, even though me and Lizzie could see in the dark fine. But it would be better to be safe because Charlie would be cutting off the electricity to the whole hotel just to stay on the safe side. We got some food and water to last us the day. Luckily, I had some sleeping pills as well left over in the cabinet in the bathroom. We both took them to sleep through the extermination. I told Lizzie I would take them, but secretly, I wouldn't take them out at all today. I planned to stay up, like a kid on Christmas Eve night waiting to see Santa Claus. If Alistair didn't show up, I was sneaking out of the hotel while everyone was asleep. I would wait, though, for as long as I could. We all met in the lobby one last time. It was 2 hours till midnight. Charlie gave us some words of encouragement to get us through the extermination, saying that the hotel was the safest place to be, the front doors would be locked with some extra locks, so nothing could come in that way. That we shouldn't come out of our rooms just in case until it was all over. As Charlie talked, I just kept looking around the room at all the demons. I kept my eyes out for anything, my ears up for sounds that would be familiar, any sign of Alistair, a shadow even, the sound of radio static. I looked in the dark corners and around everywhere. There was nothing. Where was he? I slowly felt my hopes dying. Was he not going to be coming? I felt myself slipping, falling back into darkness, back behind my wall. Charlie said goodnight to everyone, and then we all started to disperse. I stood there, though, still looking. I walked to the front door and stood there a moment. I don't know how long I stood there. My ears were back to being against my head, and my tail wrapped around myself. I felt tears from my eyes, and they just fell down my cheeks. I was just looking at the colored glass apple-designed windows, waiting for him to walk in, his arms open to give me a hug. I waited. I then heard my name being called. Heart! I snapped out of whatever trance I was in and looked to my left. It was Charlie. I felt the tears on my face still. She looked at me with a frown. Heart, come on. It's 11 p.m. Time to go to your room. I said nothing as I looked at her. I turned my head back to the door. I have to wait for him. That's all I said. Heart, I don't know if Alistair is coming. I've been in the dark this whole year, just as much as you have. Charlie laid a hand on my shoulder. I'm sorry, but I don't think he's coming back. Charlie paused. I think it's time to let him go. For us both to. Her words tore at my heart. Whatever was left of it had finally shattered and went into the void. So, she actually didn't know if he was coming, or if he would come. This whole time I thought she knew and would just surprise me. It was all part of my head toying with me. My mind went dark. I couldn't think of anything. This was it. I was finally the empty shell I said I would be by the end of all of it. I said nothing to Charlie. I looked back at the doors. Tears fell, but I did not feel them. They were meaningless. My body felt heavy. My legs felt like they were shaking. I felt Charlie wrap her arm around me. Come on, let's go. She moved me. I obeyed. I told my body no, but it was moving on its own. Charlie led me up the steps and down the hallway to my room. I didn't want to go to my room. I wanted to stay there, where he knew where I would be. I heard Charlie talk to Lizzie, who was getting everything set up in the bathroom. She shut down after I told her he wasn't coming. She just went dark almost. She won't say anything. Lizzie frowned. I'll take care of her. Thank you, Charlie. You and Baggy stay safe. We will. See you guys when it's over, Charlie said and walked out of the room. As I talked, I walked to the boarded-up window. There was a small gap in the boards, and I looked out into the city. I stood there till I felt a clawed hand on my shoulder. It was Lizzie. Come on, Hart. We must get ready for bed. We still have to take our pills. Can I stand here? I asked her out of the blue. What? She asked. Can I stand here? Watch it start, I repeated. You want to watch the angels fall? Lizzie made sure to understand what I was talking about. I nodded. I could tell Lizzie was unsure of answering. Okay, but just for a few seconds. Plus you have to promise to take the sleeping pills. I nodded in response. Okay, I'll go get them, Lizzie said and walked back into the bathroom. She came back to me with the pills and a small glass of water. I'm going to go take mine, so when I come back, they better be gone, Lizzie said sternly and walked back into the bathroom. I looked down at the little blue pills. I told myself I wouldn't take them tonight. Lizzie didn't have to know. I put them into my pocket. I drank the water, though, so she wouldn't be suspicious. I looked back out into the city. It was starting soon. I looked to the dark maroon sky and saw heaven was shining brighter than ever. Then the lights went out. Charlie had cut the power just in time. It's starting, I said loud enough for Lizzie to hear. I heard her walk back into the room and put an arm around me. We watched. We saw the figures fly down from heaven and fall through the sky and land down onto the ground of hell like a comet or a meteor. So many. I've never pictured so many would come down. Of course, they did have to spread out to every part of hell, not just the city. So I understood. We stood for a moment watching. Then we heard screams. I saw an explosion not far off. I felt Lizzie start to panic. Her breath was getting heavy. She was afraid. Lizzie didn't show it, but she was strong. She picked me up over her shoulder and ran into the bathroom. She laid me down on the floor and then closed the door and locked it and put a chair in front of the door. I heard her gasping for breath, like she had just ran a marathon. Okay, that was enough looking. It's time for sleep, Lizzie said sternly. I heard her shuffle around in the darkness while my eyes quickly adjusted. I saw her getting into the tub. She had made her little makeshift bed in it tonight. I could see that I had a few blankets spread out on the floor. A pillow lay nearby. During the extermination, we both agreed to stay quiet and not talk. But since we would be asleep for most of it, we didn't really have to worry. I said nothing. I just sat on the floor where Lizzie had dumped me, lost in my thoughts. I was listening. I could hear the screams outside. The extermination had started, and Alistair was not here with me. He promised me he would be back before then. He broke his promise. He was like everyone else down here, selfish, in it for themselves. He probably was enjoying watching me fall apart, to tumble down, as he loved to watch people fail like that. I was just a pawn in his game of chess, and shit, did he play me well. I fell right for him. I landed into his trap. It was all his plan. Then he would do this to watch me crumble, like the fucked up man he truly was. Maybe I should have taken Vaggie's advice back then, when I first got to the hotel. Avoid Alistair. All our moments together, all our kisses, the times he protected me, was all fake. I wanted to cry, but I had no tears left. I heard another scream outside. I had to make my decision. Once Lizzie, and hopefully everyone in the hotel, was fully asleep, I would sneak outside, into the chaos, into the hands of death. I would greatly welcome them. Tonight, I will be no more. It was late at night. I'd want to say around 4 a.m. Lizzie had passed out asleep. I heard the scream outside still, but they seemed to fade. Maybe the angels were moving on to another area. I didn't move from my spot. Where I was, though, I slowly stood up. I went to the door and carefully moved the chair out of the way and unlocked the door. I opened it just enough for me to squeeze by. I looked back at Lizzie as she was asleep in her makeshift covers in the tub. Goodbye, Lizzie. I love you. I'm sorry I couldn't be a better sister to you, I thought, and I walked out of the bathroom, closing the door behind her. I walked over to the window and peeked out from the small hole. It looked quiet outside. I saw no angels around. but I saw a building on fire not far off and a few stray demons dead in the street. I couldn't get out this way. It would be too noisy with me having to pry the wood away. The window at the end of the hallway was boarded up as well. I had to think of a way out without a lot of noise. I walked away from the window into the door. I unlocked it and looked out into the hallway. I perked my ears up to hear anything. All was dark and quiet. I locked the door again and closed it behind me. I was this far. I had to keep going. I went to the room across from mine and tried the door. Locked. I went to Alistair's room that was next door. It was unlocked when I tried the doorknob. To my surprise, the window was not boarded up. I went to the window and looked out. I could see the other side of town. There was a lot more going on. More buildings destroyed or on fire. Carnage left in the streets. Bodies and weapons of all kinds. Blood ran. I went and unlocked the window and then opened it. It then hit me. The smell of smoke, blood, and death. It was very overwhelming. I'd never been out when the extermination was going on, so this was all new to experience. I was always out when the extermination was over and they started to clean up. I stuck my head out and looked around for any angels. I saw none. Using my wings, I went out the window and hovered there to close it behind me. As I stood there flapping, I looked around just in case. I saw no one. I flew into the city. I saw no angels as I flied. I kept my eyes and ears sharp just in case. I decided to land. I then spotted an alleyway nearby and landed in it. I took a moment and just stood at the end of the alleyway. I slowly walked forward to the street. To be honest, I was afraid. Each step I took, I almost felt myself regret this. At the same time, though, I shouldn't be afraid of death. I was scared when I died the first time, but a lot of my mind was clouded with fear and regret. This time, I wanted to face death head on, although I was filled with heartbreak. To see an angel's face to face for the first and the last time scared me. I stopped a moment and took a breath. I was half down the way when I started to have thoughts go through my head. I felt sorry, though. Sorry I could never make proper goodbyes with my friends. To tell them I would miss them and how amazing they all were to me. The family I never had, or at least wish I had. Sorry I wouldn't be able to say goodbye to them all. Husk for all the amazing blackjack games we had, even though I lost about all of them. Nifty, I would miss her. Our little talks, as she just talked away and I just would enjoy listening. Vaggie for showing me that you shouldn't be afraid and to live like you always had a spear in hand. Angel for all his amazing laughs he gave me and his tips for flirting that I never wanted. Russ for teaching me to dance and all the good times we had together, even the bad. I still felt bad about breaking his heart, but I was glad Angel was able to mend that back together. Then Charlie. I wanted to thank her most of all. The demon princess with the heart of gold that treated me like a true friend than anyone ever has. I was glad to call her my friend, and I was glad that she took me in when I had nowhere to turn. Then to put up with me after everything. Then Alistair. The reason I was out in this god-forsaken city for the last time during the most chaotic and tragic time of the year. I'm sorry I wouldn't be able to tell Alistair how I felt. How much I loved him one more time. To say all my feelings to him. To just spill my heart out to him. I've always questioned him from this. Did he truly love me? Or was it part of his game? I'll never know. I'll never be able to ask. Never know. All I knew now was that he pushed me this far. I had a chance to redeem myself and leave hell and go to heaven, but he changed my mind. I loved him, so I stayed here just because of that. So I could be with him. Now I realize that he probably never wanted to be with me in the first place. I felt it was time. I took another breath. I walked forward, pushing all my fears down. This would be my end. I reached the end of the alleyway. I peeked out. I put my ears up to listen just in case. It was almost silent besides the crackle of flames and car alarms going off in the distance. I saw blood and dead demons on the street. A building was on fire not far off. Both ways down the road, I saw no angels. I stepped out and went into the middle of the street. I looked up and down. I was surrounded by blood and carnage from what was left of demons in the streets. I decided to walk. Right in the middle of the street. No cars were coming. Some that were parked on the side of the road were flipped over or damaged in some way. Storefronts were broken into, broken glass everywhere. Bodies lay spread out in places. Blood just seemed to cover everything. As I walked, I soon saw not far off a figure. They were by a fire, so a shadow was cast over them. I saw them with a spear-type weapon in hand as they went and stabbed someone with it. I heard a scream. I let out a small gasp. I took a step back, but in the process, glass under my foot made a crunching noise. The figure looked up and quickly turned its head in my direction. I saw it then. Its face almost seemed to light up with a devilish smile, and its sharp teeth showing. Its white eyes almost seemed to hate my existence. Horns stuck out of its head and curled around like a ram. I could see the halo that hovered above its head. The wings on its back stuck out, and some feathers fell to the ground as it turned. Blood covered its dark gray body and parts of its face. The angel pulled out its spear from its victim, still staring at me. My heart started to race. I felt frozen in place. I had a twinge of fear go up my spine. It was my first time seeing an extermination angel before, besides from afar, but this one was about 75 yards away from me. Soon after, though, I calmed my breathing and got rid of my fear. This was the fate I was looking for. This is what I wanted. I wanted it to end. I went on my knees in the middle of the street. I was letting this angel have me. I was leaving myself open and exposed. Before I could blink again, the angel appeared in front of me with a flash of light. My mind went blank. I had nothing more I wanted. This would be my end. To die at the hands of the angels. Something I wanted to be. What a fucking crazy idea that was. Originally, I wanted to enter heaven, but after everything with Alistair, I didn't want that anymore. The dark void of nothing sounded a lot more pleasing to me, more fitting. No one and nothing would bother me again. Alone, forever lost. Time seemed to slow. I watched as the exterminator angel lifted its spear to me, ready to strike me down. I closed my eyes. I didn't want to see it coming. I wanted it to be a surprise when it came down on me. I knew their weapons were the only ones that could kill a demon. My last thought was, I love you, Alistair. I heard the spear fall, but for some reason, I never felt it reach me. I was confused. What was going on? I slowly opened my eyes. What I saw surprised me. The angel was wrapped in black tentacles that seemed to be squeezing it very tightly. What? What was going on? I had a moment of confusion until I heard it. It was behind me. The sound of radio static. My hair on my arms started to stand on end. My whole body tingled. My mind flashed to memories I had locked away, back to when I felt like this before. My body froze in place where I was on my knees in the street. My head fell and I looked at my knees. My hands laid on my thighs. I felt my tears return faster than I could ever think. I was surprised I still had any left to cry. There was only one demon I knew that had that kind of power. Alistair. My mind raced. I had one thing pop into my mind. Why? Why now? Was it because he didn't want to see me die so he could still watch me torture myself? I slowly looked up, and through my tears, I saw the shadow of a figure behind me. His shape was one I knew of. There was no denying it. I wanted to call out to him, but I started to sob, so my breath got stuck in my throat. I'd never been happier to see this man than right now. I then heard him speak. "It's a good thing I found you in time, my dear. I was afraid I wouldn't get to you in time." I heard him walk around me and to the front of me. I only saw his shoes in my vision. "I had to go through a lot of trouble just to find you. My shadows had to look everywhere for you. You truly had me worried." What? He was looking for me? Why, though? I thought he was gone. I thought he left me. I thought he didn't care. That he didn't love me. I then saw a hand being held out to me. One I was very familiar with. "We should get going out of here, dearest, before more hounds show up." I realized that now probably wasn't the best time to be asking questions, or to be lost in my thoughts. I was hesitant and reached up to him. I placed my hand in his. At first, I thought my hand would slip right through his like he was an illusion, but it didn't. His warm, clawed hand wrapped around mine and helped me to my feet. My tears still fell from my face as I looked up at him finally. The first thing I saw was his glowing crimson eyes. That toothy smile he always wore on his face. He had his mic cane behind his back. His antlers on his head were bigger as he still was using his powers to hold back the exterminator angel. Oh, Lucifer, how I missed him. Missed seeing all of him. How I always got lost in his eyes. That smile most of all, though. I finally found words. The first ones I wanted to say to him for a long time. "My great buck," I whispered. Before we could both say anything else, the exterminator angel seemed annoyed by now being held back. It let out a horrible, loud screech. That probably wasn't good. Alistair growled radio static and turned back to the angel. He waved his mic cane as it glowed a light red and soon had his tentacles tear the angel apart. That was something I'd never seen. Alistair was a powerful demon, all right, but I didn't know he could tear apart an angel. Before we could react, more flashes of light surrounded the now dead angel. "That's our cue to leave," Alistair said quickly, and he went and wrapped his arms around me. "Hold on to me. This might be unpleasant for someone who has never experienced this before." I quickly obeyed and wrapped my arms around him, my hands gripping into the back of his coat. The angels made a screeching noise and jumped at us. Time slowed again. They never connected with us, though, because we soon seemed to disappear from them and the world around me started to blur. Whatever Alistair did, he was right that it was a strange feeling I was experiencing. I squeezed my eyes shut because afraid to open them. It was then I realized that he had made us both shadows and we were moving quickly along the ground and on buildings. I almost started to feel sick from the motion. I kept my breathing calm and let Alistair do his thing. I kept my eyes shut. I didn't want to open them. My hold on Alistair kept. I almost had him in a death grip because I didn't want him to disappear from my grasp. Not again. He came back for me. I was just so surprised. I thought he was gone. I thought he left me. I was so happy, but part of me was actually angry. Mainly because I wondered why. Why now did he decide to come back and show himself to me? Why didn't he come back before? Soon, we stopped. I opened my eyes and noticed that we were back inside the hotel. We stood inside my room. That was fast. I was surprised how fast we got here. I had trouble standing as my legs were a little wobbly. I had my hold on Alistair as I was afraid of falling. Before I could do anything, Alistair picked me up into his arms, carrying me bridal style as he took me to the bed. He used his powers to pull the covers back and gently placed me down on the bed. "I'm sure your sister would have been worried about you if she woke up and found you gone," Alistair whispered, staying quiet for people sleeping. "I'm sure everyone would have been worried." I started, but the radio demon took one of his clawed fingers and placed it on my lips. "Shh, now, dear. We can have time to talk later. Once this day has passed, is that okay? Alistair said. I nodded my head to answer as his finger was still on my lips. Alistair took his finger away. Now, why don't you take those sleeping pills in your pocket? That way you can sleep the rest of the time through this. My eyes widened. How did he know I had those pills in my pocket? Alistair let out a small laugh at my reaction. Remember, my dear, I know a lot more than you think. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the pills. I just stared at them. I closed my hand around the pills, putting my hand into a fist. I grabbed onto Alistair's sleeve with my other hand and gripped it tight. I felt tears forming in my eyes as I looked at him. I shut them. What if I was dreaming? What if everything that was just happening wasn't real? Was it all in my head? Was Alistair just made up? I felt a finger being placed under my chin. I was forced to look up, and I opened my eyes while I did, my tears still building. I looked into Alistair's eyes as they looked back at me. I am no dream, my love. I am here. I am real. Alistair reassured me. Prove it, I whispered. Alistair put on a small smirk. If I wasn't real, would you be able to feel this? I wasn't expecting it at all, but Alistair leaned down and placed a kiss on my lips. My eyes went wide at first, but soon they slowly closed, and I kissed him back. My tears slowly escaped my eyes and slid down my cheeks. My grip on his sleeve loosened. God, I missed this. I missed him kissing me. His lips against mine were almost the best feeling in the world. Alistair pulled away. Now, will you sleep? I nodded, my tears still falling. Alistair used his powers and made a small cup appear filled with water. I took the cup and took the sleeping pills. He made the cup disappear. He used his powers to bring the covers up to me. He placed a hand on my cheek, wiping the tears away. I placed my hand on top of his, leaning into his touch. Will you stay with me? I asked. Please. I don't want to be alone. Not again. Tears fell again. Alistair gave me a reassuring smile. Of course. I'll stay, my little wolf. I smiled at that. Not only because he told me he would stay, but because I missed being called by my nickname he gave me. I missed him calling me that. To hear it fall from his lips, he always made my heart flutter, even though it wasn't on purpose. Fully dressed, just the way I like to see you, Alistair said softly. I will say that I missed your smile most of all. I gave a small laugh. I missed hearing that saying from him. I almost forgot what smiling felt like, but Alistair always reminded me. He made me smile all the time, even when he didn't try to. Sometimes that smile of his own was just contagious. I couldn't hold back sometimes. He took his hand away from my cheek and then went to take his jacket off and laid it on the chest at the foot of the bed so that he could lay with me. He went to the other side of the bed and got in next to me. I curled up next to his side, wrapping my arms around him and laying my head on his chest. He wrapped his arms around me as well. I felt him hold me tight a moment, but he loosened his grip. I had a feeling he missed holding me as well. With his arms wrapped around me again, it made me feel safe and content. I was safe in his arms. I no longer needed to feel worried or scared of this place. Alistair made the bad go away. He was back, and I knew he would protect me. I had so many questions to ask him, but I had no time to do so. It would have to wait till tomorrow. To be honest, I didn't care. He was back. That's all I cared about. I still questioned his actions of him leaving, but at the same time, I wasn't worried about that right now. I wanted to deal with what I was experiencing right this moment. Happiness and relief. Me and him together again. Even with all the noise happening outside, it all seemed to disappear, fade away. My ears filled with the sound of Alistair's steady breathing and his heartbeat. I missed you, Al, I whispered as I buried my head into his chest. With the combination of the pill starting to kick in and the sounds in my ears, I was soon falling fast into sleep, and would be for a long while until the day was over. I heard him say one last thing before I slipped off into the darkness of sleep, and it made me smile to hear him say it. "I'll never leave you, my little wolf. I won't do this to you ever again. I promise." I then felt him kiss the top of my head before I was finally engulfed in sleep. End of chapter 18. I hope you had a tissue box. I was so happy with this chapter. It makes me happy to have Alistair back in the story. I missed writing my fluff, but I just missed writing him in general. I mean, Heart was sad. I had to have him back at some point. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed. Until the next time, guys.